Chapter 6. I've told this story all wrong. There are things I really ought to have said about growing up in Fairy. I left them out of the story, mostly because I am a coward. I don't even like to let myself think about them. But maybe knowing a few relevant details about my past will make more sense of why I'm the way I am. How fear seeped into my marrow. How I learned to pretend it away. So here are 3 things I should have told you about myself before, but didn't. 1. When I was 9, one of Maddox's cards bit off the very top of the ring finger on my left hand. We were outside, and when I screamed, he pushed me hard enough that my head smacked into a wooden post in the stables. Then he made me stand there while he chewed the piece he'd bitten off. He told me exactly how much he hated mortals. I bled so much, you wouldn't think that much blood could come out of a finger. When it was over, he explained that I better keep what happened secret, because if I didn't, he did the rest of me. So, obviously, I didn't tell anyone. Until now, when I am telling you. 2. When I was 11, I was spotted hiding under the banquet table at one of the revels by a particularly bored member of the gentry. He dragged me out by one foot, kicking and squirming. I don't think he knew who I was, at least I tell myself he didn't, but he compelled me to drink, and so I drank. The grass-green fiery wine slipping down my throat like nectar. He danced me around the hill. It was fun at first, the kind of terrifying fun that makes you screech to be put down half the time and feel dizzy and sick the rest. But when the fun wore off and I still couldn't stop, it was just terrifying. It turned out that my fear was equally amusing to him, though. Princess Elowen found me at the end of the revel, puking and crying. She didn't ask me a single thing about how I got that way. She just handed me over to Oriana like I was a misplaced jacket. We never told Maddox about it. What would have been the point? Everyone who saw me probably thought I was having a grand old time. 3. When I was 14 and Oak was 4, he glamoured me. He didn't mean to. Well, at least he didn't really understand why he shouldn't. I wasn't wearing any protective charms because I'd just come out of a bath. Oak didn't want to go to bed. He told me to play dolls with him, so we played. He commanded me to chase him, so we played chase through the halls. Then he figured out he could make me slap myself, which was very funny. Tatterfell came upon us hours later, took a good look at my reddened cheeks and the tears in my eyes, and then ran for Oriana. For weeks, a giggling Oak tried to glamour me into getting him sweets, or lifting him above my head, or spitting at the dinner table, even though it never worked. Even though I wore a strand of rowan berries everywhere after that, it was all I could do for months not to strike him to the floor. Oriana has never forgiven me for that restraint. She believes my not revenging myself on him then means I plan to revenge myself in the future. Here's why I don't like these stories. They highlight that I am vulnerable. No matter how careful I am, eventually I'll make another misstep. I am weak. I am fragile. I am mortal. I hate that most of all. Even if, by some miracle, I could be better than them, I will never be one of them. Chapter 7. They don't wait long to retaliate. For the rest of the afternoon and early evening, we receive lessons in history. A cat-headed goblin named Jarl recites ballads and asks us questions. The more correct answers I give, the angrier Cardan grows. He makes no secret of his displeasure, drawling to Locke about how boring these lessons are and sneering at the lecturer. For once, we're done before dark has fully fallen. Tarin and I start for home, with her giving me concerned glances. The light of sunset filters through the trees, and I take a deep breath, drinking in the scent of pine needles. I feel a kind of weird calm despite the stupidity of what I've done. This isn't like you, Tarin says finally. You don't pick fights with people. Appeasing them won't help. I throw a stone with a slipper covered foot. The more they get away with, the more they believe they're entitled to have. So you're going to what? Teach them manners? Tarin sighs. Even if someone should do it, that someone doesn't have to be you. She's right. I know she's right. The giddy fury of this afternoon will fade, and I will regret what I've done. Probably after a good long sleep, I'll be as horrified as Tarin is. All I have bought myself is worse problems, no matter how good it felt to solve my pride. You're no killer. What you like is nothing to do with experience. And yet, I don't regret it now. Having stepped off the edge, what I want to do is fall. I begin to speak when a hand claps down over my mouth. Fingers sink into the skin around my lips. I strike out, swinging my body around, and see Locke grabbing Tarin's waist. Someone has my wrist. I wrench my mouth free and scream, but the screams in Fiery are like bird songs, too common to attract much attention. They push us through the woods, laughing. I hear a whoop from one of the boys. I think I hear Locke say something about larks being over quickly, but it's swallowed up in the merriment. Then a sob at my shoulders and the horrible shock of cold water closing over me. I sputter, trying to breathe. I taste mud and reach. I shove myself up. Tarin and I are waist high in the river, the current pushing us downstream toward the deeper, rougher part. I dig my feet into the muck at the bottom to keep from being swept away. Tarin is gripping a boulder, her hair wet. She must have slipped. There are nixies in this river, Valerian says. If you don't get out before they find you, they'll pull you under and hold you there. Their sharp teeth will sink into your skin. He mimes taking a bite. They're all along the river bank, Cardan closest, Valerian beside him. Locke brushes his hand over the tops of cattails and bulrushes, looking abstracted. He does not seem kind now. He seems bored with his friends and with us too. Nixies can't help what they are, Nicasia says, kicking the water so that it splashes my face. Just like you won't be able to help drowning. I dig my feet deeper into the mud. The water filling my boots makes it hard to move my legs, but the mud locks them in place when I manage to stand still. I don't know how I am going to get to Tarin without sleeping. Valerian is emptying our school bags onto the river bank. He and Nicasia and Locke take turns hurling the contents into the water. My leather-bound notebooks, rolls of paper that disintegrate as they sink. The books of ballads and histories make an enormous splash, then lodge between two stones and will not budge. My fine pen and nib simmer along the bottom. My inkpot shatters on the rocks, turning the river vermilion. Cardan watches me. Although he doesn't lift a finger, I know this is all he's doing. In his eyes, I see all the vast alienness of Fiery. Is this fun? I call to the shore. I am so furious that there's no room for being scared. Are you enjoying yourselves? Enormously, says Cardan. Then his gaze slides from me to where shadows rest under the water. Are those nixies? I cannot tell. I just keep moving toward Tarin. This is just a game, Nicasia says. But sometimes we play too hard with our toys and then they break. It's not like we drowned you ourselves, Valerian calls. My foot slips on slick rocks and I am under, swept downstream helplessly. Gulping muddy water. I panic, snorting into my lungs. I thrust out a hand and it closes on the root of a tree. I get my balance again, gasping and coughing. Nicasia and Valerian are laughing. Locke's expression is unreadable. Cardan has one foot in the ridge, as though to get a better look. Furious and sputtering, I push my way back to Tarin, who comes forward to grab my hand and squeeze it hard. I thought you were going to drown. she says, the edge of hysteria in her voice. We're fine, I tell her. Digging my feet into the murk, I reach down for a rock. I find a large one and heft it up, green and sleek with algae. If the Nixies come at us, I'll hold them off. Quit, Cardan says. He's looking directly at me. He does not even spare a glance for Tarin. You should never have been tutored with us. Abandon thoughts of the tourney. Tell Maddox you don't belong with us. You're betters. Do that, and I shall save you. I stare at him. All you have to do is give in, he says. Easy. I look over at my sister. It's my fault. She's wet and scared. The river is cold, despite the heat of summer. The current's strong. And you'll save Tarin too? Oh, so you'll do what I say for her sake? Cardan's gaze is hungry, devouring. Does that feel noble? He pauses, and in that silence, all I hear is Tarin's hitched breath. Well, does it? I look at the Nixies, watch them for any sign of movement. Why don't you tell me how you want me to feel? Interesting. He takes another step closer, squatting and regarding us from eye level. There are so few children in Fairy that I've never seen one of us twinned. Is it like being doubled, or more like being divided in half? I don't answer. Behind him, I see Nicasia thread her arm through locks and whisper something to him. He gives her a scathing look, and she pouts. Maybe they're annoyed that we're not currently being eaten. Cardan frowns. Twin sister, he says, turning to Tarin. A smile returns to his mouth, as though a terrible new idea has come to delight him. Would you make a similar sacrifice? Let's find out. I have a most generous offer for you. Climb up the bank and kiss me on both my cheeks. Once that's done, so long as you don't defend your sister by word or deed, I won't hold you accountable for her defiance. Now, isn't that a good bargain? But you get it only if you come to us now and leave her there to drown. Show her that she will always be alone. For a moment, Tarin stands still, as if frozen. Go, I say. I'll be fine. It still hurts when she waits toward the bank, but of course she should go. She will be safe, and the price is nothing that matters. One of the pale shapes detaches from the others and swims towards her, but my shadow in the water makes it hesitate. I mime throwing the rock, and it jolts a little. They like easy prey. Valerian takes Tarin's hand and helps her out of the water as if she were a great lady. Her dress is soaked, dripping as she moves, like the dresses of water sprites or sea nymphs. She presses her bluish lips to Cardan's cheeks, one and then the other. She keeps her eyes closed, but his are open, watching me. Say I forsake my sister, youth, Nicasia tells her. I won't help her, I don't even like her. Tarin looks in my direction, quick and apologetic. I don't have to say that. That wasn't part of the bargain. The others laugh. Cardan's foot parts the thistles and bulrushes. Locke starts to speak, but Cardan cuts him off. Your sister abandoned you. See what we can do with a few words? And everything can get so much worse. We can enchant you to run around on all fours, barking like a dog. We can curse you to wither away for want of a song you'll never hear again, or a kind word from my lips. We're not mortal. We will break you. You're a fragile little thing. We'd hardly need to try. Give up. Never, I say. He smiles smack. Never? Never is like forever, too big for mortals to comprehend. The shape in the water remains where it is, probably because the presence of Cardan and the others make it seem like I have friends who might defend me if I were attacked. I wait for Cardan's next move, watching him carefully. I hope I look defiant. He scrutinizes me for a long, awful moment. Think on us, he says to me. All through your long, sodden, shameful walk home, think on your answer. This is the least of what we can do. With that, he turns away from us, and after a moment, the others turn too. I watch him go, I watch them all go. When they're out of sight, I pull myself onto the bank, flopping onto my back in the mud next to where Tarin is standing. I take big, gulping breaths of air. The Nixes begin to surface, looking at us with hungry, opalescent eyes. They peer at us through a patch of foxtails. One begins to crawl onto land. I throw my rock. It doesn't come close to hitting, but the splash startles them into not coming closer. Grunting, I force myself up to begin walking, and all through our walk home, while Tari makes soft, sobbing sounds, I think about how much I hate them and how much I hate myself. And then I don't think about anything but lifting my wet boots, one step after another, carrying me past the briars and fiddleheads and elms, past bushes of red-lipped cherries, barberries and damsons, past the wood sprites who nest in the rose bushes, home to a bath and a bed in a world that isn't mine and might never be.